There are no kings in America. There are no kings.
All about.
Yeah, this is really awesome. It's Friday the 13th, but tomorrow is June 14th and it's Snow Kings. And I think everyone knows that we spend a lot of time finding the song that meets the moment and actually helps to create the environment that we're trying to create for the show and for what's happening. And so we have the perfect song for today. It's No Kings, and it's Lisa Bastoni, and it's No Kings in America. And we're probably not going to dance in today as much as we're going to sort of take this in because it really meets the moment about what we're all going to be doing tomorrow and what we're all feeling today. So,
As soon
Dennis,
as that song started, I wanted to cry. I just feel like it's just as much as it's just emotional, what's going on, what we've been enduring with this really assault on the people, on democracy. And we know we have people that are our guests today from LA and they're sending the Marines. There's just so it is really a time that that I'm glad I'm here and today on Friday with all the queens. So that feels good. So I don't know how you're feeling about it all.
yeah, I when we first started and we were all in the green room, I was feeling very excited and really good. And then, of course, on the news, it pops up that that Trump's appeal went through and he gets to keep the National Guard in LA until further notice. And so
Hmm.
that made me very sad. But at the same time, that means that people will be even more compelled to come out tomorrow to demonstrate that is not what they want. And so that's what this whole Queen's Gambit is that you've been talking about, and why you were so excited about this is that that we come together. And why don't you just talk about a little bit about how you came up with this whole Queen's Gambit
Oh,
and
well,
what
love
it
the
means in this
movie.
moment?
But I think when we talk about in the movement, is, really having strategy around what's going on. I mean, I think we could either passively go day to day or sort of feel like, every day is crazy, but we do have to sort of take the time to think about the next day and the next 6 months, even though it's so unpredictable. So the Queen's Gambit is in Italian, I think it's a gambetti or something like that, gambetti, and it means tripping up, where you make some plays that make it you seem a little bit like maybe you don't know what's, you're drawing your opponent in to take sort of a risk that you want them to take, so you sort of can trap them. And I think it's just tactics and strategy that we have to be on the offensive, even though it seems so crazy. And I think nothing better like today to have really great strategists in the room. Michelle Hornish, soup to nuts strategist. You have Jess Piper, also just an amazing person that kind of breaks down what's happening and really alerts us to all this stuff. And we are talking about like Laura Brill today also. When we get down to the brass tactics of voting and looking at some stuff about, what's happening on that level. And then of course, Micaela Pond's here, and I can't wait to talk to her because this is an organizer on the ground, really, really thinking strategically also about their next steps, about what they're not only doing for No Kings, but when they have these 3,000 people show up, what are they going to do with those 3,000 people? And,
Yeah.
Lindley's in her car today joining us, Lindley Thorne, the political director of Rural Ground Game. So that's very exciting too, when we're talking about like our Wake Up Virginia campaign. So we're thinking about strategies and tactics and thinking we have to think that way.
Yeah, we really do. And I wanted to go a step further in terms of the gambit and the Queen's Gambit. It extends beyond chess. It represents the broader themes of resilience, overcoming adversity, and the pursuit of greatness. It's a testament to the power and sacrifice of calculated risk-taking in achieving goals. And so that is what we must do. And sometimes it feels a bit daunting,
Mm-hmm.
but we have to persevere through it. And I think the important word that you said was strategy. And
Yes.
I always like to say that when you don't have all the power, then strategy becomes really important in breaking through. And that's why we couldn't have guessed any more important than today.
Yeah, I mean, so much is going on in that sense. So I want to say that today, I also want to remind us, I know we have what's really great about the Wake Up Billboard campaign. I think we're going to pursue a few things today with the group that we do. Is I think we need a little bit more, some of those billboards are up. So we're going to be doing, I think, a little bit of money raising for the billboard, I hope today. And also for the Women's Summit, we have candidates that want to come, and there's rural areas and different areas that need help with the ticket. So we're hoping that people will help us get these candidates to the Women's Summit, because what we want to do, our strategy is we have 100 delegates and 100 seats, and that means we have to stand by. Our word is we need to support people when they stand up to run. So we have a couple great things to do around that today. And then also with the Women's Summit coming up, we have a great opportunity with a film called Band Together about banned books. And we have an opportunity for people in our audience in the Women's Summit to be able to watch that movie. It's a great documentary, and it's going to be a link that I think it's $4.99 for the link. This helps for the
Yeah, that's right.
documentary. Yeah. And that will be part of our information today. So I don't know if you have something else on your mind as well.
Nope, I think that's it. I'm just excited to get going.
Okay, let me
can't
get
wait.
going here then and introduce. I know it's kind of a kind of day, very exciting. So I want to welcome everybody in the room. It is June 13th, and you are on the Friday Power Lunch, and welcome to everybody. This is the place where we get things done. We amplify the grassroots voices across Virginia and across the nation. So we're so glad you're in the room, and we're a friendly community. Use the chat, and I hope you've been using the chat. I haven't been able to look at it. Introduce yourself. Tell us what you're doing for No Kings. If you get nasty though, these queens will kick you out today. And stay for the after chat after 1 o'clock. We love to sort of slow down and make you get a chance to unmute, talk to the guest if they're still here. And just, we like to build our community. So make sure you stick around for that. And if you're a supporter of the show and you're a Patreon, awesome. Thank you so much. It really means so much to us. And every week I love to write to our patrons, give some special gossip, inside scoop if I have it. I always like to share it first with our members. So support us, $5, $10, $25 a month. You make us queens be able to afford what we do here every week. So thank you. Really believing this means a lot. And today we're so excited to make sure that we're all ready for a big day. We have the Queens Trump King theme today, and we have such great women speaking up on the show today. I want to welcome in the room Micaela Pond, founder of We of Action. And if I remember, it was We of Fucking Action, but then we made it a little bit more palatable. No, I'm teasing. WOFA. So welcome. Great to see you in the room. Laura Brill, founder and CEO of the Civic Center. Welcome, Laura. Jess Piper. Made us so happy to see Jess in the room. Couldn't make it to the Women's Summit this year, but kind enough to step into the Zoom with us today. Executive Director of Blue Missouri, and Michelle Hornish, Executive Director of Every State Blue and founder of Small Deeds Done. So great. And of course, Lindley Thorne's here, Political Director of Rural Ground Game. So glad to have all these girls in the room. I mean, all these rural, this was your pajama party, by the way. This was what, you have all your friends in here. This is going to be a great show. So awesome. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, I was thinking if I was going to envision a pajama party, this is who I would have.
Yeah. And then, I'm going to say something about Fennell. If you ever want to have a pajama party with Fennell, she brings the best candy, the best snacks, the best, like if I was on an island, it'd be with Fennell, because it'd be like, right? So it's super.
Yeah, and the best pajamas, don't forget that.
I don't know. And we don't have Carrie Short here today. She is busy doing rallies, but if she does come in the room, Coastal Carrie she did want to talk about some of that. But so if you see her, make sure you let me know. But let's get started first with Micaela Pond. Let's bring her up. And Fennell, if you want to take a break, we'll let you do that. Hey, all right. Queen.
I want to go to the sleepover. I'm bringing tacos.
They got your taco. Oh, I love your taco hat. That is too cool. Will you be wearing it this weekend when you're doing all the rallies? Oh my God, is that too good? I'm going to say that you are a queen, and I love being in community with you, founder of We of Action. And what I'm going to say when I watch you in the background, what your group does with Rose Fabia and all your leaders from WOFA, unbelievable new energy though. I mean, let's just say that this year, wow, your group has built up, and now more than ever with all this stuff going on. Let's talk about, what's going on with your group and also with Indivisible and this No Kings Day.
It is a really exciting time. We've been around for 8 years as Women of Fucking Action and We of Action. And I think during COVID and with the Biden administration, people were like, we're good, we're fine, we don't need to be out in the streets. And now all of a sudden we're back, and we have a lot of new technology since we started, right? So we're on TikTok and YouTube and other spaces. So we're getting younger members and people who've really just decided I have to do something. So it is exciting. I can't believe this event we're planning has gone from 500 to over 3,000 people signed up.
Well, that's amazing. I saw the photos from your event the other day. You had a meeting and a membership meeting, and I was just so impressed because it's like going back to the old days of 17 when we used to meet in the church basements. We met everywhere. So I love this resurgence, and I think what gives me really the strength is what's happening in the growth of people standing up for their country. So I'm excited to talk about some of the stuff Indivisible is doing across the country and your read on that, and then talk about, yeah, how do you organize 3,000 people? Like, dude,
I
your garage
I
isn't big enough. I'm just saying, come on.
I was so excited because I got to spend an entire weekend with Ezra Levin and Leah Greenberg, who's coming to the Women's Summit.
That's right. Woohoo.
And to be in a room where it happens, so to speak, with group leaders from all 50 states, to have amazing speakers like Representative Maxwell Frost and Senator Chris Van Hollen talk to us and say, we see you, grassroots. We see what you are doing. We hear you, and we're here to help. And we talked about strategy and the big tent and all of these issues about, they're trying to divide brown and black. They're trying to divide old and young. We can't let them divide us. In this moment, all
Right.
eyes are on saving our democracy. And I appreciate that Indivisible is saying it loud and clear. We are a big tent. We take everybody. Everybody can do something. It's not about another email from the Democrats saying, we need your money. No, we need
Right.
action. We need you on the streets. We need you writing postcards, registering voters, talking to your family in those red states. So I left that weekend motivated, so excited. I think Indivisible is the pulse right now of where people are going, obviously, because then they're coming to WOFA. So it's working, and cheers to Ezra and Leah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It is so interesting you brought that up because I'm thinking about back in 17 and when they stood up and how important it was when we were waiting for the lead. We said, oh, where's the leaders? Where's this? And we're like, you know what? We are the leaders. And I think when I was on a Substack interview the other day, I really said there is a point in this kind of chaos when maybe vacancies that we see at the top, we don't feel like leaders are standing up, but we're here. Why don't we see ourselves as this is the time for us to rise up and be part maybe of the upper part of the party to move up and move our voices up because we can't wait. Always we say we can't wait and it's up to us. So what they're doing, and I love Leah's article that she wrote saying nothing is inevitable. If we make it that way, then it is. And acting and up and doing what you're doing, this is what we need to do. So it doesn't feel inevitable to give up on our country. So when this tomorrow, you're going to wake up with your taco on your head, you're probably going to sleep with it on your head. What's your day going to look like? And what is it for at WOFA that you'll be doing? Just this one good picture of what one event is going to look like.
So we started with, we have a visibility brigade. Raise your hand if you know what those are, right? So we started with that, and we were going to just have some messages on the bridge. And then we were like, well, why don't we do all the bridges? So we have taken over 20 bridges on Route 66, 395, 495, Route 50, and we are
Wow.
just think of us as a welcome committee. We are welcoming our vets. We're honoring our vets. Our messaging will be positive. We
Right.
want our flag back, but we don't want kings. And so you will see different messages on all the bridges. We have
Right.
collaborated with other folks in the DMV, other Indivisible groups, Fairfax Indivisible, Falls Church
Right.
Indivisible, Third Act. So we got organized, kind of like Dennis and Rose, your spreadsheet. Now we have a DMV bridge spreadsheet. So
Wow.
thanks for the good idea there. And we're filling over 50 bridges tomorrow
Wow. That's
as a
going to be
DMV.
amazing.
So
Yeah.
that event though filled up within 1 week. So
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, we got to do something else because we have so many people who want to join. So I was watching Rachel Maddow and I saw Hands Across Chicagoland.
Right.
I reached out to Reed McCollum, who's the chair for the DuPage Dems, who said he's coming to the Women's
Yeah,
Summit.
he's coming. Reed's coming to the Women's Summit. Has a
Can't
table.
wait
It's
to
going to
meet
be there.
him.
Oh, Reed is freaking cool. Just so you know, everybody,
Unbelievable.
get your ticket for the summit. Reed, just meet Reed. Okay.
Right? So
Yeah,
he was so
we need
generous,
to kind
hands
of,
me his Google folder. He's like, here you go. Here's how
yeah,
you do it. So
here's
cut,
cool.
paste, hands across Arlington County. If Reed can do 30 miles, we can do 5.2 miles on Langston Mercer Boulevard, which we chose on purpose because Langston Mercer was an Arlingtonian, an abolitionist, an
Oh,
attorney.
awesome.
And with Juneteenth coming, we just felt like we can, lift up
Yeah.
our sisters, be in union along the parade. And we have over 1,500 people so far signed up
Holy cow. Yeah,
just
my
there.
husband, I just love it when he bosses me around. He just said, I want to do, he very rarely will be like, I want to go join what you're doing. He's like, I want to, tomorrow we're going to go to No King. So we need to make
See you
sure
on
that
the
we're signed
streets.
up. We're going to wrap up and I'm so excited that you have a minute for us because I know that you are on mom energy right now and teacher energy. You just left your, yeah, go ahead. So follow
Well,
up.
we are women of action, right? So I have a action for you all before I leave. Change your Facebook profiles to No Kings, 24
Oh, good.
hours. Let's all change our profiles. And please, a really important strategy. Why have 3,000 people there and then not give them information? Make some flyers, iwillvote.com, QR codes, have somebody going up and down your events, register those people to vote. Be there, ask those questions. Are you registered to vote?
There's a good idea. Interaction. All right. Thank you, Micaela Pond. We have action. Retire. Don't mess with the teacher. Retired teacher. Thank you for that service. I know we're all behaving. Let's bring up Fennell Norton. Waiting for Fennell to come up and come on and join us real quick. And we'll bring up. So exciting. What are you thinking?
I think that that is just fabulous. And so we have a No Kings event happening on the Eastern Shore, which we have a team that's working, and I'm just so proud. That is their lane, and they are making sure that there is always something going on. So they are very engaged. No Kings, little tiny Eastern Shore, couldn't be more proud.
Yeah. Okay, good. So what we want to do is bring up Laura Brill because we
Mhm.
love Laura and Laura Brill was going to come to the summit. And we're like, yeah, you need to stay in LA. And you have a lot going there, but great to see you here, Laura, founder and CEO of the Civic Center. And what I love about you is that you're tied to, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. People don't know maybe that about you, the lawyer side and all that. But we are here today to talk about a really important demographic when we talk about voters and voter registration. So let's open up that conversation about graduation is upon us. So you must be very busy. And we also talk about these barriers for voting with young people. So why don't you just tell us what you've been working on, what your organization does, and some thoughts around how we get these voters to turn out.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Catherine, for inviting me and Fennell for inviting me. It's really wonderful to be with you all again. And yes, we're super busy. Let me give kind of an overview of our work. The Civic Center, our mission is to make voter registration part of every high school in America. And right now, 4 million 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds are about to graduate from high school or have just graduated, and almost all of them are old enough to register to vote while they are still in high school. And that's what we do. We train high school students and educators. I was super happy to hear about educators work who are they're critical to this, to teaching democracy, to supporting students who care about democracy, and to help them in their schools, right where they are, run voter registration drives and get their peers registered to vote. Because the peer-to-peer element for teens, we all know how vitally important that is. So let me just say one word about Virginia. I can talk forever about this topic, but I want to talk about Virginia because so many of you are there. And I think I saw Oregon in the chat, and California is in the same boat on this. Young people can pre-register to vote starting at age 16 in Virginia. California, Oregon, about half of US teens can pre-register to vote beginning at 16, or even Colorado just made it 15.
Wow.
And in other states, and it's not just California and New York, like it is states like Virginia and Florida, Maine, North Carolina, Michigan. It's in Utah and Louisiana. So it's a nonpartisan way to say, young people, you need a voice. This democracy belongs to all of us. We want to create a smooth on-ramp to get you involved. And so one of the things about No King's Day is we're in an elevated period of attention on what does it mean to have a democracy. You mentioned I'm in Los Angeles, and we have peaceful protests, which we're allowed to do, and the military, which you're not allowed to do, and
Right.
so it's, I hope everybody will come out, will tell their friends to come out, and we'll be there.
So you're thinking there's that
I'd say one thing about educators before I forget, because it's really, we've created these educator toolkits, and they're on, I'll put the link in in the chat afterwards, and they are toolkits to help educators support young people in running drives in high schools. And we did a specific one for Virginia because we know Virginia is having a big statewide election this year. So after I put in the chat, I do hope people will help just download it. You can just put in your information and get a free download, and help to circulate it, to get it to the people who can really use it to activate teens in their networks.
Yeah, well, yeah, Fennell, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I do have a question, Laura. I am so excited that you're here. One of the things I want to know, though, is there a way that you guys capture the success of the program? So, for example, the number of students who actually register when they turn 18, and then what that percentage is, so that we can sort of tag to see whether we're making progress or not?
Oh my gosh, thank you for asking that question. We love data. We do a lot of data work. And one of the things we created, there's a lot of not useful data about youth voting because a lot of numbers you'll see talk about like a national figure, and they lump 18-year-olds together, 18 to 29. And you're like, well, that's interesting, but what can I do about that? So what we've done is we've created a way to measure the voter registration rates for 18-year-olds, and not just on a national or statewide basis, but by county, by school district, by city, so that young people can see themselves in the numbers and understand, okay, I might not be able to solve global warming myself today, but I actually know 60 people who are sitting right here next to me in class, and I can make a difference on those numbers. So we track that, and we have 3 studies actually where we've had an expert work with us and measure voter registration rates for 18-year-olds before the students run drives and afterwards, and compare similar school districts, what's going on. And in all 3 studies, the voter registration rates for 18-year-olds increased by more than 6 percentage points in the communities with drives versus those without. And in the voting world, I mean, you mentioned postcards and some other interventions that there are, texting. 6.3 percentage points is like a very dramatic movement, and that's just in a one-time effort. That's not once we get sustaining, ongoing, year after year. So yeah, we do a lot of measurement. In a large high school, we've seen young people who didn't even know you had to register in order to vote, and the light bulbs go off. And they can register hundreds of kids in a single effort, 700 kids in one high school, because there were student leaders who were awesome and just took it on and went for it.
It's a very much with kids, and if you work with teens, and I love working with teens, and is that the peer-to-peer is very influential. And so it's like, and I'm assuming, I don't know if you guys do phones, using the phone. Do you do that at all, texting with young people to get them to vote?
Yeah, we've done some in the past. We use TurboVote as our
Okay.
online voter registration portal, so they do a lot of that. We're focused more on the actual leadership development of the
I love
teens
that.
and sort of
Mhm.
social media enabling things.
And then they would use their own phones or mobile stuff and
Right,
Instagram. That's what I was kind of
right,
getting at. I get that.
right,
And so when we
right.
talk about, I didn't know if you wanted to share any other data with us.
Yeah, I would love
Uh,
to.
We have a
Thank you.
couple
So
more
let me just,
minutes, and if you
yeah,
want
let
to
me
share
show,
the
let me,
data. Because
I'd
as
love.
you're getting your screen up, I'm just going to say a few things. I know that we looked at last year and voter turnout and the barriers to that. I don't know if you have any information about how young voters voted last year, or what you saw, if they were registered and you saw things go up because it was a presidential. I was just curious at some point to talk about that, but yeah,
Yeah.
show us what you got.
Sure. So this slide is comparing
Mhm.
voter registration rates for 18-year-olds compared to 45 and above, and the blue line is 45 and above, and the red line is 18-year-old.
Yes.
And so you can see from this chart, I mean, so many different things. First of all, the incredible peaks and valleys, I mean,
Yes.
of the 18-year-olds. It's just dramatic swings because when people assume that young people just automatically register to vote when they turn 18, well, that's not what happens. What happens is outside of big campaigns,
Mhm.
current systems are just missing the youngest voters because either they're not getting driver's licenses, or they're not going to college, or if they do
Right.
get their driver's license, it's at a time when they're not yet old enough to register to vote. And so people kind of have this assumption that voter registration is happening and is working. And so the big point of this is that it's actually really not. We're missing millions just of 18-year-olds every single cycle. And in every midterm election of
Right.
this century, fewer than 35% of 18-year-olds have been registered. So there's just a huge opportunity to improve those numbers by
Right.
helping young people understand the importance of registering as soon as they can.
What do
The
all
other
the
thing I just
peaks
want to
have
say
in
is that,
common there? What are all the peaks?
yeah,
What is that? And you
I'm
explain to
sorry.
people that maybe can't see it, when you see the peaks and the rises, is that like around
Oh, right. Thank
presidential
you. Yeah.
years
So the
or?
peaks are presidential election
Okay.
years, and then the lower points are midterm years.
Midterms.
And so if we went down actually to odd numbers years, we'd be even lower because the
Mhm.
baseline, it peaks a little bit when you get up to the midterms. And we've created this kind of shadow for 2026 because the exact point you've all been making, what that number is, depends on us. It's not foretold what it will
Right.
be, right? We get to decide by whether we can reach young people and get them motivated. And then you asked about turnout in
Right.
2024, and I just want to say we focus really most on 18-year-olds. Registration was only at 44% for 18-year-olds in
Last year.
2024. It was
Okay.
down, it was a bunch higher. It was 49% in
2020.
2028 and close to that in 2020. And low registration rates is really what drives low turnout among young people, because once they're registered, they actually turn out
They actually don't.
at
Why do you
voting.
think that is, that there was lower? I mean, you would think that we would have a higher registration in that election last year. What was it? Just that we weren't concentrating on it, or?
I think it was a number of things. I mean, neither political party had a competitive primary at the presidential
Right.
election. So I think if there had been competitive primaries, you would have seen people
Or-
getting energized starting much earlier. And we saw very low rates, going into the summer. And then, then there was a big spike around right at the election time, but it didn't start if it had started earlier, it would have
Big
gotten
lesson right
much
there, I
higher.
think.
Yeah.
Do you have another slide, or do you want
Yeah,
to take the screen down?
so I am a proponent of and, which is that there's always other things we can do. And I think the data tells us that there are some other things and opportunities. And so they vote in presidentials, but they don't vote in the off-year elections, which says that there is something compelling that we need to do to have consistent voter registration. So I think this information is great. Can all this information be found on the website to those listening who are thinking about other things they can do?
Yes, we have our website has a ton of information. There's blog posts, there's resources, there's these educator toolkits, volunteer toolkits. So definitely check out our website, which I will put in the chat. And then I have a Substack, and I'd love for people to subscribe to the Substack. I'm doing more Substack lives to help
Great.
bring people on who can spread the word and that we can amplify other good work that people are doing to reach high school students.
Awesome. And your Substack is great. And this is today. I mean, I love the Substack, and in general, it's just the place to be to really spread information. Well, thank you, Laura Brill, for being here. I'm just thinking, my gosh, I think one thing and one takeaway for me looking at that, it's no different than adults either. I see that most Americans don't vote consistently. And I think it's how we train people and how we sort of approach presidentials and then this, and we all sort of accept it. Oh, people don't vote in midterms. Well, it must be because there's something about our civic way that we train people. We need to untrain that thought, right?
Yeah,
So
right. We need to get people in community, right? To understand, right? It's not
kids
just
aren't
like an
different than their
episodic thing.
parents, and they grow
Right.
up to be adults. So there it is. So thank you, Laura, for
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Great talking with you.
graduation day. Yesterday was everybody's out of school. I don't know about your neighborhood, but the pools are active this morning. People have swim team because kids are out. School's out forever. Little Alice Cooper for those people that listened to Alice Cooper back in the day. But for now, what are you thinking on our next round? And I'm
Yeah, I am so ready for my next round because
Yeah.
I need to hear what these guys have to say because there is a lot going on and there's just nobody else other than the three in terms of this moment. So I want us to bring up Jess Piper, who is the executive director of Blue Missouri, and she's also a fantastic Substack, which is The View from Rural Missouri. And then we also have Michelle Hornish, who is the executive director of Every State Blue, and she also is the founder of Small D's Done, which she has podcasts and she writes for Substack. And then, of course, we have Lindley Thorne, who is the political director for Rural Ground Game, who just makes sure that everybody in Virginia, that nobody gets left out in rural. And so, guys, thank you for being here today. I'm so excited.
Thanks for the invitation.
Oh my goodness. So there is a lot happening, and I I just have to know what's on your mind right now, that when you woke up this morning, what is it that you were thinking about for today and for this weekend? So let's start with you, Jess Piper.
Well, I'm thinking about, I think there are 14 protests that are happening across the state. I'm thinking about the safety of my friends in these small places. I'm seeing people on boards threatening folks. There's local gun clubs that are saying they're going to show up to our rural protest. I'm thinking about the fact that Mike Kehoe, our governor, has activated the National Guard. And I'm also thinking about things like this. I am an activist in rural spaces. Rural people make up a big majority of the Army, the National Guard, those sorts of things, where 1% of the average population serves, 14% of our population serves. So I want people to remember that somebody's kid is on the front line, and that's my kid on the front line. And so it's very difficult to talk about what's going on, and also the militarization, and also the push to put our service members in harm's way, activated against their own country people. And so this is a very, very difficult time. And I hope we all remember police officers are somebody's kid. The military is somebody's kid, and we also have kids that are there protesting. And this has all been a culmination of the absolute fascist antics of Donald Trump. And it sickens me that we had to get to this point again. So I have a lot of feelings about what's going on, as we all do.
Good. Thank you, Jess. I'm going to run to you, Michelle. What did you wake up with this morning?
So, I mean, I woke up this morning thinking about my own son as well. So I have a 13-year-old son who happens to be about 5'10", 5'11". He towers over me, so he looks a lot older than what he is. I'm excited to bring him tomorrow to the No Kings protest that's here in St. Louis, but I was thinking about him and his safety and how I can keep him safe. And actually, then I reached out to my dear friend, Jess Piper, and we went back and forth about our kids and how as Americans, as citizens, as mothers, as women, how we are trying to meet this moment with everything that we can. And it's one of the reasons why I'm so glad that you put this panel together, that you put this call together, and that you bring people together every week. Because I do think that we need community right now. I think that we need to be with one another in constant contact and communication. We have a lot more power individually than what we give ourselves credit for. And we have a tremendous amount of power when we all work together. So I am hopeful. I am looking forward to tomorrow. I think that we are living in a historic year, in a historic season, in a historic week, and tomorrow will be historic. So I'm looking forward to being there making history with all of you.
Thank you. And Lindley, what did you wake up thinking about today?
Hey, I woke up very early after driving home late last night from Louisa County. You can see Pat Ranny here in the chat talking about the No King's Day protests that they're having out there tomorrow. And just listening to the organizing that's happening all over rural Virginia, Rural Ground Game's getting some signs out to the Eastern Shore for now, where you are for tomorrow. I think about 500 landed in Stair's garage earlier today. So those will be out tomorrow as well. And, like Jess mentioned, this is a scary time. It's okay to say that out loud, but I think we also have to help each other know that being quiet isn't going to keep us safer. And there's a lot of strength in coming together to speak up together, because it is easier for them to target a few brave souls. But if all of us are collectively brave souls together, then that creates a much larger force for them to try to disrupt. Although I am part of Rural Ground Game, I am in Northern Virginia today, so I am driving into DC along Route 66. So I am thrilled to hear that if I were to drive here tomorrow morning, I would be seeing all these incredible signs on the bridges as I'm entering. But it feels heavy driving up here today and just seeing all the reminders that there will be road closures for the event tomorrow. It's featured on a lot of the digital signs as you approach the DC area today. But I am here for the Storyteller Project. I'm interviewing some folks today who are former DOJ employees, former CDC employees, NASA, folks who have served our country in a number of capacities and who want to use their voices like so many people are going to use their voices tomorrow.
So that's fantastic. This is what I wanted everybody to hear. And Jess, we're going to come back because I know that you put out some information that people are really anxious to hear about in terms of safety for tomorrow. So before we move on beyond No Kings, I do want you just to talk a little bit about safety for tomorrow and those who are worried. What kind of advice would you give them on things that they should do?
The first thing I would go is to the ACLU site, and they have a great toolkit for knowing what is normal, what is constitutional, where you can be, what you can say, what can happen and what can't happen. There is some really bad advice going around, and I'll just hit it straight on. And that's where there is Occupy Democrats shared a piece of advice about if violence happens, to sit down. I want everyone here to not take that advice. Do not sit down. It's difficult for a lot of people, even me, I'm 50 years old, to sit down and then get back up quickly. But also tear gas falls to the ground. People who may be elderly or someone with disabilities would have a difficult time getting down and then getting back up. So we just need to remember, to be safe. If you're at all hesitant about where you are, stay in the perimeters. Know how to exit. Know where you came from and how to get back. Walk away calmly. These aren't interactions with ICE, which is where I say, if you look like me, put your body in front of your neighbor. This isn't what this is. This is a peaceful protest. And so we shouldn't be having any sort of back and forth with, any authorities. And if you see something like that happening and you can film it from a safe place, do it. But otherwise, walk away.
Okay, thank you. So I want to move on a little bit to just other information about what we're thinking and what we're doing. So after No Kings is over, we're still in a moment where people are sort of struggling with where they should be, some of the big moves that they think we should be making nationally, but also locally and individually. So I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit about that. But Lindley, I'm going to go to you because you've been doing some phone banking And you've been getting some very, very interesting information that I think will help us in the conversation we're about to have. So will you share about the 100,000 area group of calls you're making, but with the ones you've done so far, what you're hearing?
Yeah, we Rural Ground Game is running some phone banks. We've been at it for about 2 weeks now, working out some of the kinks. We're taking a deep canvassing approach, and we are reaching out to over 300,000 voters in Virginia who have a pretty strong Democratic support score, but who have not voted in at least 2 of the last 4 elections. Over half of these folks did not vote in 2024. And we are calling them not to say, hey, what the hell, even though that's very much what we're thinking. We are calling them to say, hey, are you aware about these potential cuts to Medicaid? And this initiates a conversation to see if they're aware of this issue. What we're finding is that just under half of them do not know that these potential cuts to Medicaid are coming. About 61% of them say that they don't know who's responsible. Only 12% of folks are identifying Republicans or Trump or both as being responsible for these cuts. We're trying to see if we can get these folks to be animated about an issue, if we can learn a little bit more information about them. We know they're not regularly voting, but we know that we can't win statewide here in Virginia this year, and that we can't pick up other seats further down ballot that we can pick up and should if we don't pursue voters that really neither party is bothering to talk to very much, and certainly not our party, and definitely not our party when it comes to rural spaces here in Virginia. So we're trying to approach these folks. We've heard some really heartbreaking stories. As part of our storyteller project, we do ask people somewhere further down in the script if it's a really good conversation, if they would be willing to share their story with us. And we've actually been surprised because these are not engaged voters. A lot of them don't know. And we've had people even go so far as to share a story. One woman in particular talking about her husband with dementia that she cares for, her brother with Down syndrome, who she also cares for, and how she's had to, lose a lot of her savings to take care of them, and trying to get them into a nursing facility where both Medicaid and Medicare are essential to helping her take care of those family members. She wants to tell her story to us. She even offered to volunteer with Rural Ground Game because she is so pissed off about these cuts that she wants to be part of calling more people to make sure that they know. I hope what we can take away is that it's really frustrating that people don't know. It is really frustrating to talk to registered voters who didn't bother to show up, but we don't have time to sit with that feeling. We have an opportunity to talk to these people, and what we're finding is they don't have the information that we needed them to have to show up. We need to communicate a clear vision for what Democrats are about and what we want to build together for a future that we can all believe in. We've got to have that aspirational piece there too, but we got to wake people up. That is the point of these big ass billboards and the yard signs with Elon Musk chainsaw ripping through these things that we all care deeply about, is that we are trying to get people to focus and start conversations that we haven't been having with a lot of folks that we haven't included.
So thank you, Lindley. So Jess, let's run to you because these communities are your communities. And I think in 26 it'll be really important to you. So as you're thinking about this, how are you thinking about how we talk to communities that have not been engaged before or that we must get to?
Just like Lindley was saying, and Michelle and I talk about this all the time. It's, I'm from a town of 480 people. And when I knock doors, people ask me all the time, why do they vote against their self-interest? Well, a lot of times they don't have anyone to vote for, right? There's not a Democrat down ballot. I know when I voted in the last election, I could not vote for one county office because not one Democrat was running. So that's really problematic. But also, like Lindley was saying, people don't associate their representative with this terrible policy. I know our state representative is a very nice man. He's the one who beat me, kicked my butt. He's a nice guy. He goes down there and votes against every one of his constituents. He shows up to Sunday mass and sits with everybody in the pews and then goes down and take away their rights. And so the reason we need to have candidates everywhere is because when someone is in this community knocking the door, they recognize me, they know me. They don't know anybody that people ship in from other places for a couple weeks before an election. They know me. They know the people in their community. They'll answer the door and they'll talk to us. And rural people should be doing the work in rural communities. I'm not asking people to come out of their community, but we've got to support the people that are already already doing the work. So by knocking the doors and talking to these people, they understand, holy crap, Jeff Farnan is a nice guy, but I can't have him as my elected representative because he defunded the schools and the roads and he let the hospitals close. And that's why we make sure that we are supporting candidates in rural spaces and red places. And let me tell you, Fennell, there is no more difficult job than what we do. And that's asking people to fund candidates who are likely going to lose a race, because it's been decades since they've had a Democrat run. It's been decades since they elected a Democrat. The only way we get back and we scratch our way back is to make sure that we're funding and supporting these candidates.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I'm going to tell you a quick thing that I was at our committee meeting and we had some folks who don't usually attend, and they were really sort of fussing about giving money to our candidate. They were like, "Why are we going to give money to a candidate who's going to lose?" And I really, well, I won't tell you what I said, but anyway. So my point is that that's what has to happen. But when we have the DNC, Triple C asking people for money, that's a frustration point because they think that I'm giving you money. Why are you asking me for more money? So we just have to educate on that piece. Michelle Hornish, you are a unicorn. You can make things happen. Your stories move me. They make me do stuff that I had no intention of doing. So how do you help us do this thing in terms of moving these people, in terms of telling our stories in ways that we get more people to engage with us?
So first of all, the question that you were asked the other night, why would we give money to a candidate that is likely going to lose their race? That is my least favorite question. It's literally my most favorite question that I get, because educating people about this, about being, we fill this gap in the Democratic support structure. Lindley does that, with Rural Ground Game, helps make sure that people have the resources on the ground. We're doing that, helping make sure that candidates have the resources that they need to get the word out. But people don't realize, a lot of folks don't realize that when you run for office, when you sign your name on the dotted line, that doesn't automatically mean that you're getting a $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 check from the local or the state or the National Democratic Party. It just doesn't work that way. The way that it typically works is that the candidate themselves, the nominee themselves, they have to pick up the phone and start calling their friends and their colleagues, people in their own network, folks they might have heard of, and ask them for money. And then depending upon the results that they get there, they can get put onto specific lists that show that they're, potentially a flippable race, or, a race that needs investment elsewhere. And that means that for huge swaths of the country, folks are really on their own. And especially in rural America, they have a very difficult time raising funds for their race. So it's this loop. It's this feedback loop, right? Where we say, you have to be able to raise money in order for us to give you more money. But people who are in rural areas have a more difficult time raising money because their race doesn't look flippable. And so it's this really difficult spot that folks end up in. And that's what Every State Blue is really trying to fix. We create communities of people that crowdfund for underfunded, specifically for the underfunded races. And those are typically in the reddest and the most rural areas in the states that we operate. That's Ohio and Missouri and Tennessee. And so our communities of hundreds to thousands of people chip in a few dollars every month, showing this people power. And then we distribute those funds first to those people who have the least. So we give them the funding floor that they need. We give them the resources that they need to get out there and to spread the message that we need them to spread. Everybody's talking about the need to get information about Medicaid cuts to people, right? To explain that Donald Trump and the congressional Republicans are at fault for this. We need people on the ground knocking on doors, explaining that that's the case. The best person, in my view, to give that message, besides Lindley and all the people who are calling, are their neighbors, right? Like, I live in St. Louis. I'm in Missouri, but I live in St. Louis. It would not be good for me. It would not be as effective for me to go into Iron County, Missouri, and knock on a door and say, hey, friend, this is what's happening down the street from you. Much more effective for the football coach or for the local librarian to go in and say, friend, did you know that this is what's happening? And that this guy who you go to church with on Sunday, that he's actually voting to take away your daughter's rights, to take away your rights, that, they've been in charge for 20 plus years in the state legislature. And is your life really better? I don't think your life really is better. Let's talk about how we can fix that together. So really what we're trying to do is empower people like the folks who are on this call to join into communities that help empower other people to be the messengers in their communities that we need them to be. Stop thinking about nominees as only win-loss, right? Elections are not binary. Elections are about progress. They're about community. They're about habit. It's about making sure that people are registering people every cycle, that they're getting out and voting every cycle. Elections have a lot more to do than just a win-loss. And so that we're trying to change that conversation. We're trying to change people's attitudes and help people like the people who are on this call know, there are things that you can do. And one more thing. I also want people who live in blue districts, blue areas, blue cities like mine, or in blue states to understand the impact of the policies that end up being rammed through state legislatures in red states. What starts in red states does not stay in red states. For a really long time, we have been primarily focusing a lot of attention, understandably, on purple districts, on purple states, on battleground states. We need to be expanding our view, right? There's enough energy, there's enough power, there are enough people to be able to be going into these red states too. We would not have Dobbs were it not for Mississippi. They would have done it someplace else. I'm not throwing shade on Mississippi. I'm just saying what starts in red states doesn't stay there. So we need to be broadening our view. We need to be helping in all these states, including places like Tennessee and Oklahoma and Mississippi and Louisiana. So
because I think that you're brilliant, I'm going to give myself some credit because I've been saying that for years and years and years and years and years. So I'll give myself some credit on that one. So we don't have a lot of time, but what I do want is a bold move. And so if you had the ability, and you're going to give me two, if you were in charge of the DNC, what would your bold move be? And then just based on the spaces that you occupy, what your bold move would be. So you're going to give me two bold moves in 60 seconds. And so I'll start with you, Jess.
My bold move for the DNC would be to fund people on the ground in these red states. We all know that no shade to Kamala Harris, she had 90 days, but they raised $4 billion in 2024. A tenth of that would have done a lot in red states to help us. And as far as where I am, I'm hopeful that with our organization, people understand that they can get money, because we don't just give people, an endorsement. We give them a check that they turn into yard signs and literature and gas money to travel their districts to talk to their people. So that would be, getting this group even bigger than we have right now, and to show people that we can change states like Missouri, like what Michelle was talking about. We have legalized weed, recreational weed in Missouri, and we beat back right to work, and we expanded Medicaid, and we did all these things because we're not red, we're uncontested. And when we realize that that's what's going on, we can make a difference.
Okay, Lindley.
I would love for the DNC to not have a 50-state strategy, but an over 3,000 locality strategy.
3,244.
If all the DNC does is say we're going to have a 50-state strategy and they deploy those resources to every state party, what is going to happen is what always happens. Those state parties are going to hunker down in the cities and suburbs and continue to leave everybody behind. We need leadership at the top that says, no, we are going to fight everywhere, because the people we love and care about live everywhere, and they deserve to have fighters on their side. Also, anyway, I'm going to leave that there. The next thing I would say, this is for everyone. This is something that everyone can do, because we can't just sit here and hold our breath and wait for the DNC to figure it out. Tell your story. This is what we're doing in every single corner of Virginia, is just sitting down with regular people and putting them on screen so that they can share their personal story about how the issues impact them. The DNC is investing in influencers. I say yes, and sure, go ahead, have your influencers, by all means do the thing, but the rest of us are not celebrities. We are not influencers, except we are, and we should be seen as that. We are influencers in our communities. We should dig a lot deeper than this surface level holding our breath for elected officials and celebrities to come save us. We save us. the stories that every single person on this call, anyone who can hear me, what you have experienced in your life genuinely matters. It will move people, it will persuade people, and I'd love to be in a world where every single person has their chance to share and persuade, and that's what we're out here doing. So please recognize your own power. There's the people that got pissed off about Carol in Missouri at the pancake shop. They used their voices, they spoke up, and Carol is now back home. She is only back home because people spoke up and got loud about it. So don't underestimate the power of your own voice and what it means to show up and agitate.
Michelle.
Oh, geez. You guys both had such incredible answers. I'll ditto those, but I'll also add that, if the DNC could actually help lift up and amplify groups like this, I think that would be incredible, right? I see a lot of people hear a lot of people say, what can I do? I am just one person. And one of my goals with my life is to help people edit that sentence. What can I do? I am one person. One person can do a lot. One person's story can do a lot. One person's effort can do a lot. I don't know which person who's on this incredible call was the person who decided to start a Friday Power podcast lunch, but someone did. And because of that person, there are over 180 people that joined us just today, right? And those 180 people will now go off into their communities with all the information that they've learned today, right? We each have these spheres of influence that are really far greater, far broader than we give ourselves credit for. So in the coming days, as all of us are asking what we can do more, just realize that the reverberations of your power really just continue on far, far further, far more effectively than you think they do.
You guys are just phenomenal. I'm gonna say, based on what you've said, history is really our guide. Linda Hersham, I quote her every other week or every week, who says, "Talk and knock far and wide," is essentially what you guys are saying. And you're also saying what she says, which is to make injustice public. And I always think that when we can't get into a door, or someone doesn't answer a phone, or someone doesn't look at the text message, when they're on their way to work, when they're on their way wherever they're going, if they can see a giant billboard that asks the question, is this what you voted for? Losing your freedoms. We have to figure that out. We have to figure out how to get to people in other ways, because if they can hear you, see you, understand what's going on, there is no way that the majority of America would be happy with what's happening now that requires us to have a No King's Day on Saturday. Katherine, thank you for joining with us.
I just had to jump in. I know we're at 1:00, but I'm going to say that I was sitting here like I'm in the audience and couldn't take my ears off of the conversation. And it was so powerful to listen to, as we say, the queens today really talk about this. And it's really serious stuff. It's emotional, it's passionate. And I think that, like I say, I always want to remind us, it is our time right now to lead. It's, I think, any greater time in history, and maybe in our lifetime, what we're facing right now is that, we say, oh, we're waiting for these leaders, or what's the DNC going to do, or what are these people, and what are these elected doing? And I know this group doesn't wait for anything. And this is what we talk about every day. And I think everybody is the 160 people on here too. We're all leaders. So it's really our time to stand up and make these changes and really make sure, because there's like tomorrow's another day. Right. And today's June 13th, but it's our lucky day. I'll take all the luck of it. But I want to make sure that we wrap up, and I know we're going to have questions. So if people can stay a little longer, I know y'all are busy. I want to make sure that we thank you appropriately, and also make sure that we wrap up and come to the other side with us if you can.
Yeah, I just wanted to say before they go, I talked to Lindley and Jess and Michelle because I love them and because I think they are phenomenal. And so I have been bugging them about doing a special podcast where it's not politics, but it's just about them and the stuff that they do. It would be hilariously funny. It would be informative because they're so smart. And so I just want you guys, if you think that these guys should be on a podcast together, you should put that in the chat.
No, another another great group.
I mean, I have to say that I would love the excuse to get together with everyone every week. It truly would be wonderful. I no doubt in my mind that it'd be a fun chat.
I think a smart one. I think if we really are talking about what we're talking about, this is what we need to do. It's kind of that pajama war room.
Well, it's like how do you talk about politics without talking about politics? And we'd have an awful lot to talk about.
Awful
And
lot.
I think that people would be really interested in hearing from these guys.
All right.
Really
So what we want to do is because it's 1:06 is we want to do
Oh
our
God. Okay.
wrap up. And I see Laura Brill is here too, which is awesome. So we'll just go ahead. And so who can stay a little bit?
I can stay for a bit. Sure.
Okay, good. Jess, can you stay for just a little bit?
I have to ditch. I'm so sorry, friends.
Okay.
We're heading out of town.
Okay.
go ahead and
Thank you
ditch.
so
I
much,
love
Jess.
every single one of
Bye,
you.
Jess.
Thank you.
I love you and be safe and everybody. Lindley, if you could stay a little bit, but thank you. That was a great wrap up. I want to make sure too, that there's a few things that I really want to make sure we are talking about and we could put in the chat again. For the Women's Summit, get your ticket. We have tickets still available. If the hotel still has rooms, but we don't have the room block active, but we have sold a lot of hotel rooms. So our block has been shut down, but there's still rooms available. We're really excited because in Virginia, we do have a chance to lead and really make a chance to, really put our energy somewhere really positively. I know we have candidates on this call that are coming. I don't know if Cindy Green is still out there. We have candidates like Cindy coming from far away that want to come to the summit. And really, we have a lot of resources for them. So we hope that you will support our efforts there. We have Dory Scott coming next week, and she will be part of the summit. She did a great thing with banned books, meaning that she made a documentary with the band together. She was part of the outreach community around the banning of books, and she's also had a lot of issue losing a lot of her work because of this attack on diversity and the DEI thing. So she'll be coming, but we have a link that you can go right now and you could purchase the link to watch that documentary from Juneteenth to July 6th. So the countdown starts. I already bought my link. It was $4.99. It's just a little bit to help the documentary. So do that today. What else am I forgetting? We have Dory coming next week. We have the documentary band together. You can get that link. What else, Fennell? I'm trying to remember. We got
Well,
something.
we're working on the candidates for HD for
Oh,
the
yes.
the power pack for I guess I would call it for CD2. So it would be Cheryl Green, Liz Richardson, Mary Person, and Kat Porterfield.
So
And
in the
Mike
sense,
Megan, if you could
yeah.
go.
So in Virginia, we do this thing to organize called power packs. We put people in groups of power packs to work together. And so that power pack is coming. Woohoo. So that'll be exciting. I forgot. Thanks for that reminder. So let's go ahead. Thank you to our patrons. It means a lot. It was such a great show today. Next week, join us. And then the week after that, we won't be here because we will be at the summit. Right? All right. Let's run credits and I'll see you on the other side. And thank you. It's another Friday and be safe tomorrow. We got to show up. Let's roll.